but this is something I have done for the past few years in Vermont. It actually evolves into several different research topics that I have been involved with over the last 13 years. I'm a research-oriented faculty at the University of Vermont. And I don't know if we are taping or doing anything, but my dean always tells me, you're not supposed to do extension work. I know that he was teasing me, I hope so. But all of my research relates to entrepreneurship. I teach entrepreneurship, business planning, new venture creation at the University of Vermont. This research is a controversial research. I'm just telling you ahead of time. So I'll tell you the full story and share with you why we started it and how it became controversial as we developed further down the road. But we were also able to secure more funding for bigger research because of this as a foundation. I included my contact information there for you. And I know we have a big Vermont crowd here, so if I made any mistake, you want to correct me, feel free to jump in, okay? Take over first. Now, let's see. Are you all milk drinkers? Anybody who does not drink milk, raise your hand. All right, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Stay, all right? Don't go.
We love cheese.
Now, good. Now, for all of you who drink milk, how many of you have to drink organic milk? Raise your hand. Have to.
I choose to.
Okay, one. And that's the second question. How many of you would choose to drink organic milk if it's available? Okay, we have a few people. Now, how many of you actually know where the milk comes from in that jug? Seriously?
Neighbor.
Good, okay, if you know, that's great. Now, if we take these questions to the regular marketplaces like grocery stores, most of the consumers, they say, well, isn't that a location printed on that jug? And the argument is no. The milk comes from all over the place, depending on who processes it. Now, that's where the controversial thing that I will tell you in a few minutes. But the background of the study is really simple. People were asking questions. The funding came from Vermont Dairy Council for 1 year. That 1 year, between 2005 2006, Vermont Dairy had experienced a lot of changes. Our dairy farmers faced a lot of challenges, the milk price problems, the cost of production. So Vermont Dairy Council supported our research to study a comprehensive framework about milk production, consumption, distribution, processing, and just about anything we can find out for Vermont milk producers. And naively, I took on that job. I said, all right, I will give it a shot with Bob Parsons, of course. Now, we propose to use an integrated approach, not just based on numbers, but also based on a visual description. 4 things challenging dairy farmers in Vermont, and probably everywhere else too. But in Vermont, price volatility, seasonality issue, cost of production, energy costs, not just the feed cost, but the transportation cost and the operating utility stuff. And then labor, that's a big chunk. And lack of transitional plans for young farmers into the farming, or for older farmers to transfer the rights to different people, different generations. I mean, Deb is here. I don't know, it's just so difficult to understand the transitional changes across different generations. Mom and dad, from grandparents, they didn't want to change, and the kids said we have to change, and there are conflicts all over the place, and they ended up selling the farm. But the biggest issue in Vermont is the consolidation of processors. Well, the processors, they have to save money. So they started merging, getting bigger and bigger to reduce the cost, to reach the economy of scale. We all know this terminology. In real life, create a lot of programs for dairy producers. Back in 2005 2002, 2003, and then 2005, 2006, 2008. A couple years in a row, we had a terrible ice storms in the wintertime in Vermont. I saw it on TV, I was in tears. The dairy farmers had to dump their milk in the field because the tank truck could not reach the farm. They just couldn't. The bridges were destroyed, the road was sealed, and now earlier, the last season was Irene, the hurricane. Again, the dairy farmers had a problem. The truck just couldn't get to it. A few graphs to review with you about the situation in Vermont. And if you're from Maine, New York, I don't know if you feel the same experience, but this is the reality here. Number of milk cows go down. Production per cow goes up. Our dairy farmers, actually, many of them were recognized at national award level for good quality of the milk. I think the UVM dairy herd also won some ribbon, gold ribbon, blue ribbon. There's no problem with the quality of the milk, but the milk production has been changing dramatically over time. Now look at this, is a little bit scary though. The size, the percentage of the smaller dairy is diminishing. The size are getting bigger and bigger over time. Talking about organic versus non-organic, there are big issues in the production. We all heard, previous presentation, the fly, corn silage stuff. I used to work with University of Nebraska at a Panhandle Research Center, Scottsbluff. Anybody knows where Scottsbluff is? Some of you do. It's really pathetic, isn't it? You were talking about counting flies. I was counting grubs in 120 degrees summertime. Nebraska. Organic versus non-organic issues, a lot of experts put a lot of time in there about production, improving the quality, input. Consumption is a new issue in the market aspect, actually. A lot of researchers are doing research about why people buy organic food versus non-organic food. Do people even know what's organic? This is the USDA definition of being organic, and the producers can actually put these on their labels if they want to. It ranges from 100% organic to 95%, about 70%, and less than 70%, and so on and so forth. There's an interesting debate about this thing. Oh, this is in the market already, it came out. The producers think this is a lot of tedious work for them to do, and the processors feel the same way, and the consumers don't read labels anyway. Now, so how does this work to help producers? This is the latest information based on USDA retail sales. Actually, dairy is number 2 in all the organic retail sales perspective. Now, this includes the fluid milk, cheese, ice cream, yogurt, you name it, we have the kind of thing. There is a great opportunity and a potential for organic producers to tap into that big chunk of the market. Now let me tell you a little bit of background for the data stuff. So, Vermont Dairy Council wanted us to do this research to study where does Vermont milk go first, right? We have a really famous old saying in Vermont is we sell milk to Springfield, Massachusetts, and that milk comes back to be sold in our grocery market for about 5 times high price. Now, so I said, all right, we'll do some study. In June 2006, we were able to have 1 month information for all the dairy farmers in Vermont, including organic and non-organic. At that time, we had about 1,300 farmers. Everybody's milk sales ticket. We know exactly the volume of the sales. We know exactly where or whose truck came to pick up the milk. So how far the milk had traveled to the final destination of the processing. We found 4 large handlers in Vermont, plus some other smaller handlers. The top 2 large handlers, number 1 and the number 2, they actually work together, sharing some of the facilities, sharing some of the tank trucks, but the largest one is the first one. Now, this is where the controversial thing starts. I know it's research, but when I presented it to this, to the Dairy Council and the processors, they said, Kathleen, it's a no-no. You can't tell them who we are. I raised the competition issue. I said, all right, so I'm going to present it without using names. If we just assume, okay? Even though you probably know who they are. But then we have a handler number 3, it's actually in New York. And then handler number 4 is a truly local processor. You know, they just take the milk in, that's it. That's where it stops and getting processed. How about other small ones? We have DMS, Dairy Lane, Bruce Brother, and the DFA. These smaller processors scattered around the state. The DMS is light blue, DFA is yellow, Bruce Brothers purple, and Dairy Lane is green. You see, they all have a little bit territorial kind of stuff. Well, I can't even see this, so I assume you guys see the color all right? Yeah. So these are independent processors scattered around the state area. Using all the calculations that we have for the milk amount and how far their farm is to the final destination of the processors, we separated the farms by their categories of the production, and these are just to the co-ops of the travel mileage. Generally speaking, the large farmers, their milk, of course, travel further, followed by the medium size, the smaller ones, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, this is the whole thing just going to co-op. And then we have separated destinations. I just chose a few to show you. The whole data is humongous data set. This is just the transportation to West Springfield, Massachusetts, in organic versus non-organic. And this is not a sample information. I mean, this is the population because I have all their milk tickets. And this is to Cabot, one of our larger processors in Vermont, organic versus non-organic. The distance is similar. Number of farms are dramatically different. To middleberry processing, organic versus non-organic. Organic farms travel a little bit further in this case than the non-organic ones, but there are only 3 organic farms going to the middleberry place. Finally, St. Albans. This is where that secret number 1 is. They're getting a lot more farmers, of course, and they're, again, organic farm milk travels a little bit further than a non-organic farmer, but this, you can tell, they have the largest market share in the whole process. Now, a few questions here. We can talk about it, you can ask me questions. Again, in the proceeding, I have the maps of production distribution and some price molecule here calculated. Distribution does matter. If you ask consumers, do you really care where your milk comes from that you drink? Nowadays, a lot of them will say yes. I think consumers learned from the market situation. There are a lot of diseases, potential, mad cow disease. But people are a little bit more educated now. Just even 5 years apart. Our study started in 2006. This is 2012 right now. mean, if you ask customers, their perceptions changed dramatically. They were educated pretty well. So they do care. Now, does that make a difference for the price determination? That is a much more complicated issue for researchers to find out. You know, a lot of people do fancy equations, simulation models to identify the pricing strategies, the differentiation between the cost, the prices across the regions, different producers, a large scale, small scale, different species, and so on and so forth. I mean, you can have a lot of things going on just to understand the pricing perspective. In Vermont, we had quite a few policies, public policies there to help dairy farmers intend to. We had the Dairy Compact for a few years. And many of you probably remember the Northeast Dairy Compact. Then Ken Becker, who used to be the deputy director of the Northeast Compact or something, he actually became a faculty member working with me for a few years. But then Dairy Compact didn't get further support after a few years. Then we had Dairy Council for a few years. Again, they are just lingering there for a while. And then we had a policy to sell cows, turn them into beef. Well, that didn't work very well, we all know. And then we had, all kinds of other things. We are trying to manipulate the prices, but that's just not how it works. I mean, between farm to customers, there's a whole long distance here. I only calculated the physical distance of the milk traveling. If you want to look at the cheese, the ice cream, yogurt, all other value-added stuff, that's a whole new story. It's all different. Market does not necessarily determine the price, but people influence the market, the customers. Finally, the producers are becoming more entrepreneurial. We still have a handful of farms in Vermont, have 5, 10 cows. I teach those younger generation all the time. And I asked them, I said, how do you survive with 5 cows in your backyard? He said, I make it. My granddaddy made it, my mom made it, I'm going to make it too. I said, how? So he said, well, I'm doing something else. Well, I said, tell me, what do you do? Well, they renovated a barn, have a petting zoo. His mom was teaching cooking on the side and doing sewing jobs, all farm work. The kid had 2 other jobs. And it's just all over the place. The farms are forced to change their operations structures, modify the operation structures. It became a big burden for a lot of farmers. But if that's what they want to survive in farming, they have to figure out something to do. Because of this thing, I designed a new research for multifunctional study targeting small and medium-sized farms in the New England area. And it was funded. This is a ginormous grant. I mean, I was very honored to get this grant. I didn't even expect USDA would care. Well, obviously they do. We have a brand new research going on here, just started last year. And we're collecting information from small, medium-sized farmers, including dairy, vegetable, fruit, greenhouse, fish people, flower people, you name it. It's a census approach. I do not take samples. Every farmer has opportunity to participate in this research. So you can imagine the scale of the research. The first level of the survey came back. We have 4,500 responses already, and it's still coming back. In New England, we have 33,000 farmers. I would hope to reach at least 10,000 of them, and I think I can hit the goal pretty well. Now, in the government presentation, I was actually asked to leave because I showed them the next 2 things. I'm going to show you. I showed them the distribution of the processor, number 1 and the number 2. They're dominating market distribution. And they were not happy at all. I said, Kathleen, you're not supposed to say. I said, this is the research, right? Research is based on fact. If you have 80% of the market share, what's wrong about that? People know, so I can't show it. Now the thing is the efficiency of operation, of course. That's where the big star over there, the dark one, is where the location is for that handover number 1. And they have a wide range of marketing channel. And this is a handler number 2, collaborating with handler number 1 on the other side of the map. And they take quite a lot of market share too, and 3 or 4 to the small. We use the GIS system to estimate the coordinate, the distance, traveling, time efficiency, and everything else beyond that. It's a pretty decent program. If you're interested in the detail, I have the report. I'll be happy to share with you. Any questions? I guess we do have time to do conga dance. Yes?
So you weren't looking at marketing really, you were looking at distance travel.
No, this is not about market. This is how far the milk goes relate to the cost of operation and the return on operation. It's not about selling it. There's just one level of the transportation.
But then how do you determine the share? You kept saying, well, these have more of the share, but you're just doing distance.
Well, they're covering that area. That's where their milk comes from.
So you're also adding up the pounds of milk and saying?
Yes.
So it's distance plus the pounds of
Plus
milk?
the weight, yes.
So did you figure any cost to the organic milk of the
Bob
plant?
Parsons will report that. Yeah, I'm only showing the visual part. He has the number part. Any other question? No? All right, thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you, Kathleen.